Let me tell you about a dirty little secret in nutrition research that nobody likes to talk about. Most studies are way too short to tell us anything meaningful about long-term effects. We're making major dietary decisions based on 2-week or 4-week studies, and this is a serious problem. When you understand why short studies are misleading, you'll start reading diet research with much more skepticism, which is exactly what you should be doing. Here's what happens in your body during the first few weeks of any dietary change. You get immediate responses: water weight changes, glycogen fluctuations, initial hormonal adjustments. These aren't necessarily representative of long-term adaptations. Your body is still figuring out what's happening. Metabolic enzymes take time to upregulate or downregulate. Gut bacteria populations shift over weeks to months, not days. Hormonal feedback loops need extended time to find new equilibria. Cellular remodeling happens slowly. 2 weeks is basically just the adjustment period, not the steady state. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. Your body has sophisticated systems to buffer against short-term food scarcity. It doesn't immediately assume you're starving just because you skip breakfast for a week. But continued restriction triggers deeper metabolic adaptations: changes in thyroid hormone, alterations in leptin signaling, adjustments in metabolic rate, modifications in hunger hormone patterns. These adaptations become apparent over months, not weeks. A 2-week study completely misses them. The research we do have on longer-term intermittent fasting, studies extending to 6 months or a year, sometimes shows different results than short trials. Initial benefits might diminish as the body adapts. Or conversely, benefits that weren't apparent in the first month might emerge later as metabolic flexibility improves and cellular remodeling occurs. Adherence patterns change too. What feels sustainable for 2 weeks under research supervision might become impossible at month 6 in real life. Dropout rates in longer studies reveal practical limitations that short studies completely miss. But here's why we get so many short studies: they're cheaper, faster, and easier. Recruiting participants for 2 weeks is manageable. Keeping them compliant and monitored for 6 months is exponentially harder and more expensive. Researchers face pressure to publish, funding constraints, and practical limitations. So we end up with a literature dominated by pilot studies and short trials that provide suggestive hints, but not definitive answers. And then these preliminary findings get turned into diet books and headlines claiming revolutionary breakthroughs. The seasonal variation issue is another problem. A study conducted entirely in January might show different results than one in July because of seasonal eating patterns, activity levels, and even vitamin D status. If your study only lasts a month, you're capturing one specific seasonal context, not a representative picture of year-round sustainability and effects. Here's what frustrates me: when short-term studies show benefits, they're promoted as proof that a diet works. When long-term studies show diminished benefits or increased side effects, they're often dismissed or explained away. But the long-term data is actually more relevant for most people making dietary decisions. You're not planning to diet for 2 weeks and then stop. You want sustainable approaches that work over months and years without causing harm. The solution isn't to ignore short-term research entirely. Pilot studies help identify promising approaches worth investigating more thoroughly. They can reveal mechanisms and immediate effects. But we need to be honest about their limitations. A 2-week study showing improved insulin sensitivity is interesting and hypothesis-generating. It's not proof that a dietary approach is effective or safe for long-term use. We need to demand longer studies, better funding for nutrition research, and more honesty in how preliminary findings are communicated to the public. When you're evaluating dietary advice, ask how long the supporting studies lasted. If someone is making grand claims based on 2 or 4-week trials, maintain serious skepticism. Look for evidence from 6-month or year-long studies, ideally from multiple independent research teams. Be especially wary when short-term benefits are extrapolated into lifetime recommendations. Your body is complex and adaptive. What happens in week 2 might be completely different from what happens in month 6 or year 2. We need to stop pretending that short-term research provides definitive answers about long-term dietary choices.